Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this DevOps demo. Myself, I'm Ravi, the trainer. I hope you can all hear me and see my screen. Team, could you please quickly confirm in the chat? Thanks, guys. Perfect. Perfect. Hello. Audible and visible. Thank you. So let me introduce myself, team. Myself, I'm Ravi. You can call me Ravi. I've been into IT industry from past 12 years. I've been working on various disciplines of IT industry. I was working as middleware architect. I was working as a DevOps solution architect. Currently, I'm working as an SRE, next level of DevOps. I've been into trainings from last 11 years. I started my training career around in 2011. No, 2010. I started trainings on. I used to teach WebSphere, WebLogic, JBoss, and past few years I've been delivering all DevOps tools and technologies. I'm a certified Docker associate. I'm a certified AWS Solutions Architect Associate. I completed my certifications on ITIL V3 and WebSphere Application Server Administration. And I do more corporate trainings team. I do online, offline, corporate, many things. I teach DevOps, Docker, and Kubernetes for IBM. I've taken around 20 plus batches for IBM on DevOps, Docker, Kubernetes. For Optum, I took many batches on DevOps, Docker. For Deloitte, training. For Bank of New York company, I delivered DevOps training. For Subix Limited company from Bangalore, I delivered Docker and Kubernetes. Develops Alliance is one of my trusted partners, so that is also a company for which I deal with DevOps, Docker, Kubernetes. And I'm one of the prime time trainers for Edureka, Intellipath, Broadridge, all these companies. So that's simply about me, team. Just to introduce myself, and this is the agenda for today. You might have heard about DevOps n number of times in various lectures or maybe some videos or maybe some articles you might have read, right? I'm going to give you the complete DevOps experience today. What is DevOps? Why we need DevOps? Why people are running after in today's market? What will be the future of DevOps? What I need to learn as part of DevOps? What's my qualification to learn DevOps? All these things I'll be clarifying, team. Nothing to worry. I'll start from 10 feet low. Even a fresher can understand everything in today's class. Any freshers in this meeting, team? Just would like to know. Any freshers? Just say yes if you are a fresher. No problem. You will understand end to end. By the end of the session, you will completely understand what is DevOps, how DevOps works, everything. Okay. So for professionals out there, maybe 10 to 15 minutes of basics I do discuss. Slowly from basics, I take to DevOps next level. So please recollect all our memories of basics. Thanks for your understanding, team. And team, all my trainings are practical oriented trainings. I'm famous for practical oriented trainings. I do teach, every subject with practicals. Actually, when I say practical oriented training, it's not like, okay, showing you some slides first and explain, okay, this is what, and showing some practical next. No, not like that. Practical theory you will learn. I mean to say, while doing practical itself, you will get all theory. I'm opposite to slides, but here and there some definitions or something I'll show you. Being introductory class today, I'll be showing you some slides from next classes. I'll provide you all the material, everything, but you will see more practical stuff in my classes. Everybody can understand those practicals, nothing to worry. And all my classes are interactive sessions, team. Being a corporate trainer, allowed to take interactive sessions. So as much as you can interact with me, as much as subject I can teach you. So be there, be active, be energetic during the class. Post your questions, whatever you want. I frequently take your questions in regular intervals of time, and I'll be answering over the chat a few questions. And feel free to post any question that you have confusion on. I repeat the concepts if you would like to hear again. No worries, don't hesitate. But whenever I post a question to you, I might have answered so far. Please respond. Whatever the response, I may be fine, but I need some response. That's it. So hope you understand. today's class team. Let's get started. So first I would like to start with a basic point team. Server. You might have heard about server term n number of times. You might have heard about server term, the term server n number of times. But what is a server? What exactly a server is, right? People say server is a device where we store some data. People say server is a big machine we keep in organizations. People say server is, a process that works on request response paradigm, right? All are true team. All are true. Basic definition of a server is a process that accepts your request and processes some response for you. When I say request, .com, you are getting login page. How are you getting that login page? You gave a request www.facebook.com. It went to the server where it is running and it is sending you the response. If I say facebook1.com, I would see 404 page, file not found or page not found, something like that, right? Because there is no such server hosting that application. Like this team, server is basically a process that works on request response paradigm. We, being clients, give requests to the servers and server responds back to us. This is the basic definition of a server. Your mobile phone is a server, your laptop is a server, your desktop is a server. At enterprise, in organizations, we use big capacity machines, right? Big fat servers, they are also servers. So basically, server is something that serves us. That is the first definition you need to understand, team, before start with. And next, we need to understand applications. There are different types of applications in market in day-to-day activities. You might be using n number of applications. The first type of applications are desktop applications. These are the applications you directly install on your desktop and you use. A few examples, team. Can you quote a few examples? What are desktop applications? A few examples can you quote? Anybody? Right. MS Office, Chrome, players, VLC player, media players, and one of your favorite sports, EA Cricket. All these are desktop applications we directly install on our desktops. So we directly access them from our desktop only. The limitation for desktop applications is, team, only one guy who sits in front of that particular machine can access those applications. I cannot access the application by connecting to your desktop along with you. Not two people can access the same application on the same desktop, right? So desktop applications have limitations. They can be installed directly on the desktop and can be accessed from there itself. These are desktop applications, team. First type. To overcome this issue, people started using next level applications where web applications have come into the picture. You must have seen nareshTechnologies.com. Some website is there. That is a web application where n number of people can access that particular application, right? N number of people from various geographical areas can access that application at a time. Okay, fine. Yes, we are able to access, but how it is being hosted? How this particular application is being hosted? Desktop applications, we simply said next finish on the desktop. But how web applications we could host? Any idea, team, how to host web applications? Freshers or someone, you must have done at least some mini projects or some academic projects in your careers. What is a web application? I discussed a simple website I can call as a web application. Where it could be hosted? How to host web application? Any suggestion? Anybody? Excellent. I got the answer. Web server. Absolutely. So team, web server is the server where you could host your web applications and it takes the request and it processes the response. There are many web servers in market, team. The famous one, Tomcat, Apache, Sun1, IIS from Microsoft. If you go for your Windows machine, by default, you will see IIS. You need to activate. And then IHS from IBM, Oracle HTTP server, many nowadays NGINX web server. There are many web servers available in today's market, team. There are many web servers available in today's market. Whatever it is, any web server, the functionality is same. Take the request, process the response. So usually to host web applications, we use web servers, right? That is next level. Now, third level, enterprise applications. What are enterprise applications? And what's the difference between web application and enterprise application? Okay, let me ask you a question here, team. Let's discuss. There is a website www.nareshTechnologies.com, or Ravi has an organization www.ravi.com. Ravi has an organization where he keeps the information about where is Ravi organization, and the gallery, contact us page, the highlights page, the trainings provided by Ravi, blah blah blah. Some content is there, and just compare this with Book My Show application. We have Book My Show application next to it. Let's compare these two, or take your online banking application, or take Amazon, Flipkart, these applications, right? Compare them with Ravi application. Tell me at least a few differences you find between these guys, between web and enterprise. What are all the differences do you find, team, when you compare these applications with those applications? Okay, fine, no problem, team. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. If you would like to make a banking transaction, team, the first thing you do is login. So, which is security. Authentication, authorization comes into the picture here. First, you need to log in. You need to provide your authentication. Who are you to access banking application? Whereas to visit Ravi's website, you don't need any authentication. You can directly launch the website. You can go navigate to multiple tabs. You can see the information. That's it. Second observation, right? Once you log in, you can perform some money related transaction here. Transaction management is there, which is not there in Ravi's application. If everything is success, money will be deducted from your account and it will go to your friend's account, vice versa. But in Ravi's website, there will not be any transaction management. And once after your transaction, you will get a message or an email, something to your mobile or your email account. Whereas if you visit Ravi's website, Ravi does not say thanks for visiting me via email or a message. And then if you don't access your banking application for 2 months, your money will not go anywhere. They will be there only, right? So data persistency, you are permanently having your data safe over there. Your contact details, everything is safe over there inside some database and all, right? These are all the differences you observe, team. These are all the differences you observe when you compare a web application with enterprise application. And most importantly, availability, high availability. When I say high availability, team, suppose I want to access my application today at midnight, 12 o'clock. Yes, I can, because the application will be up and running. Suppose the application is down for 10 minutes. Whatever it is, the time doesn't matter. 10 minutes application is down. 10 minutes Ravi's website is also down. Ravi may or may not have the business impact. How many visitors visit Ravi application daily? 1 or 2 or 10 max. But what about banking application? What about Book My Show? What about Amazon? N number of people worldwide access these applications. If they are down, that's a huge business loss to the company. And as well as customer may get bad feedback about the company and he may shift to other option. So high availability is one of the reasons here. All these things you see in enterprise applications, team, all e-business applications you are using nowadays, wherever you are using your e-money, credit cards, debit cards, all these things, right? So these are enterprise applications. We do have variety of enterprise applications, team. In day-to-day activities, you must be accessing n number of applications, reservation applications, banking sites. These are all enterprise applications only. So these applications we could not host on web servers. This is where we need something different. That different is nothing but application server platform. We use application servers to host enterprise applications. There are variety of application servers in market, say WebSphere, WebLogic, JBoss. These are all variety of application servers where you get all the services, whatever I told, messaging services, transaction management, sessions storage, data persistency, All these things you will get from application server. That's why people go for application servers. These are all different types of applications and different types of platforms we use to host them. With this, let us try to understand application architectures we have. There are two types of application architectures, team. Omkar, I just told you, right? Application server has more capability than web server. Data persistency, transaction management, messaging services, all these can be processed by application server where they could not be processed by web server. All right. We have two types of architectures, team. We have two types of architectures. One is monolithic architecture. Second one is three-tier architecture for now. What is this monolithic architecture? Did anybody hear about this term, team? Monolithic architecture? At least once? Anybody? What is monolithic architecture? Did anybody hear about it? At least once? Yes, no, maybe? Okay. Fine, no problem. Let me tell you. Monolithic architectures are tightly coupled architectures, team. Monolithic architectures are tightly coupled architecture, means all the application components are bind together. All the application components are binded together. They work together. They work together in the same layer. I mean to say, when you are practicing some Tomcat database application and all, you must have installed your database, your Tomcat, your WAR file or application file on the same machine. Yes or no? Everybody. Every component on the same machine, same your laptop or desktop, you must have practiced at least once in your careers. Agree? Yes? Yep. This is nothing but monolithic architecture. What if database uses high RAM and it leads to CPU starvation? What if your web server consumed more disk space? It affects another layer also. One component may affect another component. But earlier days, team, if you take 10 to 15 years right back, if you see back, they used to use monolithic architectures. The traditional applications that companies had, yes, they were monolithic architecture based applications. Slowly people moved to entire architecture, means they started separating the layers. Okay, why to put all these things together? If you take a hotel billing application, team, you went to a hotel, he generates a bill and he gives you the bill, right? For that, do you think he hosted his application in New York or New Jersey? Is he connecting from here to there via internet and all? Do you think so, team? No, there will be a system where he'll be having a program, some database, he just operates it and it generates the bill and he gives you. So this is a best example for monolithic applications. Everything is at one place. So slowly people started moving to entire architectures, entire architecture team. See the figure here, right side, three-tier or entire architecture. Imagine in the middle you have your server, right? You see a server. There you have your banking application. There you have your banking application. Now team, tell me, how do you access your banking application, online banking? If you would like to make a transaction, I would like to wire some funds to you. What should I do? No, I mean to say, how do you open that application? A few people said mobile, a few people said, okay, website, whatever, right? So team, the first client generally we use is browser. The first site or the first time generally we use is browser, either Chrome or Firefox, whatever it is. You open your browser, you launch the URL from browser. So here via browser, you are giving a request to your server, means your server is responding to its client, which is nothing but your browser. So browser is the first client for you, team. Browser is the first client for the application to ask access or something else. That is first client. Second client, your mobile. Wherever you are, right? By using your mobile app, you are connecting to your application. Browser also from anywhere you can use. When you use mobile app, team, when you use mobile app, do you think the bank application, the software software, the data, everything is saved in your mobile? Do you think everything is saved in your mobile? Yes, no, maybe? No. Mobile app is a simple interface team for you. Again, it connects to the original server to update the transaction. Yes or no? It connects to this original server only through some API, through some interface. That is a simple interface that connects to original application again. So it is another client for you. Mobile app is another client. Third client. Nowadays, if you see, a few banks are announcing like this, like send SMS to so and so number so that your work will be done. If you want to get mini statement, send SMS like this. If you want to know your mobile balance, send SMS to this number. Like this, they are offering us mobile banking with mobile number also. With a simple message, you are getting response. So messaging clients also can connect to your server. This way, team, earlier we connected to the application from the same machine where it hosted, but now today any server, any machine, any browser, any mobile app, yes, we are able to connect to our applications. So client tier is separated. Client can be anywhere, and server may be hosted somewhere in organization or some organization data centers. Generally, all organizations team, they maintain all these servers at a place called data center where they keep all the servers. So that is next level, server. And database. Database will be again hosted on separate servers, not on the server where you have the application. Database will always be hosted on separate servers altogether. That is called backend. Here, if you see team, client tier, middle tier, backend tier. Three tiers you have here. So it is three-tier architecture. Here you can have n number of servers in the server layer. You can have a group of servers. Even though one server goes down, other two servers or three servers will work for high availability. That is also possible here. Like this team, we have three-tier architecture from infrastructure standpoint. If you think from application standpoint, whatever you see, look and feel right through your mobile app or through your browser, whatever you see, we call it as presentation layer. Where you see, look and feel is from presentation layer. Where you can't see, that is nothing but business layer. When you click on transfer some money, you can't see what's going on inside. It shows you a small ball which is turning round and round and round, and finally it says done or failed or something, right? That thing which is going on inside, which you can't see, that is business logic. From application standpoint, business logic must be running inside. Whether you have money or not, to whom I need to send money, is that account active or not, these kind of things it checks and it sends money and it processes a message to your mobile, done, or take the OTP and enter. This is business logic. And finally, it updates the data in your database. Okay, Ravi, you sent 10,000 to someone, so your money is deducted by 10,000. This is the available balance. Database transaction will be updated. Like this team, presentation layer, business layer, backend layer, or client tier, middle tier, backend tier. However you take it, it's three-tier architecture. So monolithic, and then we move to three-tier architecture. I hope everybody clear so far. Yes. Perfect. Thank you guys. Now with that team, yeah, to be frank, tell me how many of you remember software engineering definition? How many of you remember software engineering definition? What is software engineering? How can you define software engineering? What is the simple definition of software engineering? Anybody? Does anybody remember team what is software engineering? Yes, no, maybe? All right, no problem. Okay, I'll explain software engineering with a simple example team. Team, I tell you more examples to make you each and every concept clear. So let me tell you a simple example to understand software engineering, right? Suppose I'm using Android mobile version 10, right? I got a new update for version 11 to upgrade it to version 11. But I read the reviews, how was version 11 and all. The reviews were negative. There are a few issues with version 11. that is not designed properly, I never go with that. I never go for an upgrade because it is a development failure. Rakesh, yes, today is the first class. This is the demo class. So it is a development failure. So I never go with that upgrade. Okay, fine. They take all the reviews back. They consolidated them. They find out what are all the issues and all. They fixed and then they released it. So all the issues are gone. Okay, fine. I thought, okay, let me go and install. Then I got the reviews again. The code is good, whoever got installed. For a few mobiles, it has compatibility issues. For a few mobiles, it is not working properly. For a few regions, it is not getting downloaded even. There are some issues, right? There are some issues. So it is operational failure. Though the code is good, though the application is good, it is an operation failure. You cooked delicious food, but while serving, you are not serving properly. This is operational failure, right? In that case also, I never upgrade my mobile because I don't know whether it will be stable or not. We never know, right? This is operational failure. They took this feedback also. They designed perfectly, they operated perfectly, but they announced like, boss, we cooked delicious food. We are serving you with utmost hygiene, but we are not sure whether taste is good or not. And we don't have any assurance after eating this food, you will be there or not. This is what they said. I mean to say, team, after operations, they said, if you face any issues in future, we don't provide maintenance support. We don't provide performance fixes. Something like that they said. So obviously, right? So there will not be choice for people to go with this particular application. So team, that is what exactly your software engineering says. That is what software engineering says. If you are releasing an application, right, that should be developed in a systematic way, that should be operated in a disciplined way. The approach you are going to use is a quantifiable way. You should measure how I am going, what are all the outputs, what is the request, all these things you should consider, right? So that's what software engineering says, team. The systematic, disciplined and quantifiable approach towards the development, operation and maintenance of a software. If you fail in any one of these phases, no one uses your software. Agree everybody? That's what the example you understood just now. That is what software engineering. So you should not make your application bad in any of these conditions. You should get maintenance support. See, nowadays, if you purchase any item, the first question we ask is, what's the warranty? Even though you take a small product, doesn't matter. We ask for warranty. We ask for guarantee. What is the support? If I call, if I raise a ticket, how fast you can come? All these things are common in today's life, team. So that's what software engineering says. So the goal is to deliver efficient and reliable software. The goal is to deliver efficient and reliable software. That's what exactly software engineering says. Got it? Fine. Fine. Then next point. Okay, we understood software engineering. When you think of software engineering, team, the first thing we think of is SDLC. The first thing that comes into our mind is SDLC. SDLC defines the complete life cycle of a software. You must have read in your software engineering subject in your graduations and post-graduations team. So when you go for SDLC, right? When you go for SDLC, right, it defines the complete life cycle of a software. How to plan the things, how to analyze the things, your requirements, whatever, how to design the things, how to go for implementation, then how to test it and how to release it to the end user. All these things coming into the picture, team. This is SDLC, software development life cycle. It aims to produce high quality software that meets customer expectations. So when I say SDLC, obviously the first model that hits your mind is waterfall model. Everybody of you know waterfall model. Waterfall model is a step-by-step approach, team. Once you complete one phase, then only you should go to next phase. You can't run multiple phases parallelly. And also, suppose your customer asked you to paint the wall with red color. You are half done. Half of the wall is painted with red and he asked you again to apply green color. You can't say yes here, because waterfall model has all the waterfall model has all the requirements rigid in the sense standard. They can't be changed over time until the cycle is completed. So what I should do, first I need to paint the wall with red. Once I take the requirement again I start painting the wall green. I can't stop in between. That's what waterfall model says, team. It's a step-by-step approach. The requirements are rigid here. It takes minimum 2 to 3 months for you to prepare the application and release it into the end users market. So this is waterfall model, team. It was oldest models, one of the oldest models. With that, let me introduce you how IT industry is changed over the years. This is the first step towards DevOps, team. Listen carefully. How IT industry is changed over the years. The evolution of IT industry. Initial days, team, for development, we used to use waterfall model, and the application architectures were monolithic architectures. You know already, I explained you. And for deployment and packaging, we used to use physical servers. What is a physical server? Let me tell you simply, team, in normal words. Physical server is nothing but a big fat server. A big fat server with 200 GB RAM and 2 to 3 TB disk space, like that, and 32 cores of CPU. Normally you use Core 2 Duo or something like that, right, on your desktops and laptops. So at the enterprise level, team, we use big machines. I use 350 GB RAM machine with 32 CPU cores to run my applications. That's how you see at enterprise level, team. These are called physical servers or bare metal servers sometimes. So to host your application after development, right? Once you develop your application by using whatever the architecture you want, then you host your application on the server. How you host your application on your desktop? You install Java first. You must have some operating system. You install Java, you copy Tomcat software, you deploy your WAR file, maybe you deploy your application inside, you restart the server to be able to access, right? The same way, we host the applications on physical servers. And then we put all these physical servers in data centers. Data centers are the places where organizations maintain servers, team. In organizations, you never directly log into the server and work. Your servers are kept somewhere in New York or New Jersey or someplace, Europe, whatever it is, someplace where your headquarters are and all. They mainly put data centers over there. And for high availability, they may keep another replica in another country also. You connect to those servers and you work on those servers. You do not directly use those servers to host your applications or those servers for your practice team. You will be given with a simple desktop, normal system with normal CPU, 4 gigs of RAM and some GB of disk space. You connect to those servers to host your applications and you work on them. These servers are placed at a place called data center where they maintain proper temperatures. Your server should be in cold state, right? They should not be in heating state. With proper temperatures, with proper power backups, 2 to 3 power lines they maintain for proper power backups and all. They maintain all the data over there. So this is the first evolution of IT team. This is the first. What is the difference between data server and physical server? I did not say data server, Omkar. It is data center. Data center where you keep your servers. That place is called as data center. So the physical server we keep in a data center. That's it. Data center is nothing but a place where you keep all your servers. That's it. I hope you are clear here. So this is the first evolution of IT team. How we started with. So with this, there are many problems. You got to know the problem with waterfall model. It takes 2 to 3 months to deliver a new feature to the end user. You need to wait for till cycle is completed. Suppose a developer has written the code. QA guy has to wait till developer completes the code and then he has to test. Once QA is done, once testing is done, then only developer will come to know whether there are issues or not. Like this team, there are many dependencies in waterfall model. Time to deliver is very bad here in waterfall model. And monolithic architecture, we discussed already the problem with monolithic architecture. And the problem with physical server is you take 200 GB server, 300 GB server, and you host only one application. you host usually only one application. Just a Tomcat or Java based application, if you take, it doesn't take more than 2 to 3 GB memory, where you have 300 GB RAM, which is useless. You apparently waste resources in physical servers. That's why, team, we need alternatives. Earlier days, team, organizations didn't have any performance tests or load test or stress tests. They used to give whatever the capacity people asked for. Nowadays, we have many things to customize. So people moved with new platforms. But earlier days, this was first scenario, 10 years back, more than even. This was the thing. And slowly people moved from waterfall to team. What's the current model people are using? Anybody? What's the current model people are using? Excellent. There you go. The current model is agile team, agile development model. People started using agile model. This is very dynamic model where you can take dynamic inputs, and it's an iterative model. Quickly you can develop new features. I'll show you how agile model works practically, not theoretically. You don't need to understand agile model, team. Practical way of approach is enough, because you are not developers. You are aiming for DevOps engineers. DevOps engineers are not developers. First point I wanted to make it clear. So agile process is mostly followed by developers, but being DevOps engineer, yes, we should also know it. Let me explain. There is a team of people here, team. There is a team of people here who will be having a product owner. Suppose there is a banking application. This is the team who is working on that banking application. Okay. There will be a product owner who takes the tasks from client. Client means nothing but bank guys, bank organization. Hey, put the new offer today, change the home page, and add new feature. We are giving discounts on loans. So just make it as a pop-up whenever someone enters into the screen. Like this, he keeps on getting requirements from clients. Once he gets the requirements, he writes all the requirements at some tool or some technology they use. They maintain all the steps over there. That is, usually we use many tools, team. That stories what they write, or the stories, the tasks what he or she writes, right? They are called user stories. Once the user stories are ready, these guys come into the picture. They take these stories. Suppose there is a task related to database, DB guy will take it. There is a task related to front-end development, that guy takes it. Whatever depends. There are many tools, team. Rally, Planon, Jira, many tools available in market. So organizations may use any tool, but the advantage is just to make your stories over there, just to keep your data over there. That's it. So they put the data here. These guys take these stories and they put a time frame. Let us say 2 weeks. They put a time frame and they try to complete that particular story in that time frame. They may have one or more stories. It depends on the task and their role, right? So they keep a time frame. We call it as sprint. Sprint means the time frame they keep, team, the target they keep to complete their stories. So they keep a sprint timeline. They try to complete that particular task within that sprint. It can be 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but ideally at enterprise level, it is always 2 weeks. And daily these guys meet for 15 minutes. They say officially 15, but you never know how it ends. Sometimes there were times I used to sit 1.5 hours also in my calls. So officially they say 15 minutes stand-up call. You never know how it goes. There they discuss 3 things daily. What did I work on yesterday? What's my today's plan? Do I have any blocker while implementing this task? What did I do yesterday? I worked on so-and-so code. What is today's plan? I want to test that code. Any blockers? I want some VM. So I'm waiting for that VM. So these kind of things we discuss daily. That is called stand-up call. There will be a mentor for this team again. That mentor is nothing but Scrum Master, we call. He or she takes these questions with everybody. Do you have any issues? Are you working fine? All these things he or she takes from everybody, and then they close the call. Like this team, they daily meet, for 15 minutes for 2 weeks, whatever they plan for. They complete the stories, and then once the requirements are finished, they give a demo to the client again. If client satisfies, that's it. There ends the matter. And again, new set of tasks, new requests, new features, new bug fixes. Like this team, they keep on working with new features or new tasks. So for every 2 weeks, they come up with something new. So this is what Agile output team, how you get output from Agile. So developers, to be precise, developers keep on working on new features. They keep on working on new features and they keep on delivering new features for every 2 weeks. Product owner and scrum master are not same team. They are two different people. Product owner can be a technical guy. Scrum masters are non-technical people usually non-technical people who are into project management. All these guys, agile coaches and all, you will see as scrum masters. This is Agile team. The outcome here you need to take is developers are preparing new features within short time and continuously they are preparing new features. This is the quick takeaway from the explanation I have given. So with second evolution of IT, we started with Agile. The application architecture has become entire architecture. We discussed this also. And from physical, we move to virtualization. Team, I hope everybody of you must have seen something like this at least once. Right? Something like this. VirtualBox or VM player, something like that. Right? There are many, but what was the purpose we were using it? I also used when I was in graduation and post-graduation times. So what was the purpose you used? Maybe once you see it. Anybody? What's the purpose we used it? Okay, no worries. Let me tell you. So team, suppose I have a Windows machine. I would like to practice Linux. What to do? I can't, move my Windows to Linux completely because I want Windows, but I want to run Linux also for my practice. How to do? That is where you use usually VMs, VMware or VM players or virtual boxes. These are the tools that help you. To create multiple operating systems on the same set of resources. See, I have a Mac operating system. I use Apple. On top of it, I installed a VM and then I'm using Ubuntu. Means I can run Ubuntu and Mac next to next. I can run both operating system at the same time by sharing my machine resources. I have 8 gigs of RAM team, 8 GB RAM. I shared around 3.5 GB to this Ubuntu. I shared around 20 gigs of disk space to this Ubuntu. I shared my resources. So I can deploy one application on my main machine and another application on the second machine. Like this team, to share the resources of your existing server, we started using VMs, virtualization. The big machine what we had earlier, you can make into multiple pieces. Each piece is called as a VM. In each VM, you can host multiple applications. Or on all VMs, you can host multiple applications. Each VM can have its own application, its own operating system. But at the end of the day, you have one big machine you made into pieces. And in each piece, you can host different application and you can use your resources effectively here. Earlier, I had 300 GB RAM, but I used only 10 GB RAM. Now, 300 GB RAM, I'm making into 30 machines of 10 GB each. I can host 30 applications at a time. So it's about sharing of resources, to be precise, the hardware resources. So that's about VMs team. VMs changed the world over the night, technology world. Almost all organizations are using VMs. Everybody uses VMs in organizations team to host their applications. So that is next level. When we go further with technology, you will understand in detail what is physical, what is VM and all. For now, this is just introduction. And next, along with data centers, we started using hosted data centers. Mean to say, earlier we used to cook at home. Sorry guys, let me close this. And later time we started going to hotels. Means somebody is cooking for us, we are going there, eating and coming back. So earlier we used to host our own servers. Now there are third-party organizations team who started hosting servers for us. You can go borrow servers there. You can use for 1 month or 2 months. Yes, and then you can leave if you don't want. Right? So team, this is how you can understand. This is hosted data center, not cloud for now. This is hosted data center, not at all cloud. Hosted data centers are physical data centers only, but someone's organization. Somebody hosts for me. That's it. Next, this is second evolution of IT team. And now, okay, Agile is good. Agile is absolutely good. Developers are in full swing. They are preparing n number of features quickly, easily, continuously. But what's the disadvantage here? Why should I look for another alternative, right? So team, the point here is with Agile, you are preparing new features rapidly, but are we sending them to end user? Are you really send them to end user is the biggest question team. Suppose I prepared n number of features, F1, F2, I fixed some bugs, B1, B2, something like this. I fixed many things. Am I sending them to end user? Is end user enjoying my features immediately once after I'm creating? Team, have you who are all working? You should know it, right? Are you really sending once they are ready? No. In Agile team with Agile, right, you have a challenge. Though the feature is ready in organizations, we never send them immediately to the end user in Agile way, because we always look for approvals, client approvals, and in organizations we follow something called change management. To implement a new change, you need to get n number of approvals. You need to register some time frame. Okay, Sunday midnight 6 to 12, something like this. You need to document all the steps. You need to document the rollback plan, everything, and then only they allow you to make a change. So this way team, every month they maintain one standard window. Okay, every month last Sunday midnight 12 o'clock. Okay, midnight 12 o'clock I need to deploy. So imagine you have 10 developers in your organization or 20 developers. They keep on delivering new features. They must have gone through n number of sprints. They must have come up with around 30 to 40 fixes. So what to do? They have to wait for that particular Sunday or that particular Saturday. They have to release all the fixes on that day only. Then they will come to know if their fixes are working for the end user or not. There is no other option team. Believe me, there is no other option. You can't go and release the application to end user every day. There is no such option. In organizations, right team, those are all freshers, please listen. In organizations, right, they do not directly send the application to end user. They maintain different environments. Before releasing application to end user team. For example, this is called development environment. We call it as QA. We call it as IAT, not IST, IAT, and we call it as prod. There are different environments team you have at enterprise level. So development, QA, IAT, prod. Why they maintain n number of environments? Team, I just wrote 4 environments here. I am maintaining 13 environments literally in my organization. Okay, it changes from organization to organization team. There is no specific standard here, and names also vary. A few people say pre-prod, staging, UAT, disaster recovery, performance, automation. N number of names are there. I'll tell you what are these quickly. Suppose team, you are a doctor. you are producing a new medicine for COVID-19, right? So you tried something, you got some complex with you. I mean to say, you got some combination of medicine. Now you have your medicine in your hand. Do you taste it or do you test it? A simple question. Do you taste it or do you test it? Obviously, you say test. You never taste, though you prepared. Come on. Okay. So, because team, the application is developed here. I should not say end user, hey, end user application is ready, please access. No. First, I need to send to QA environment where QA people test the application. This is developer playground. This is QA environment to test the application. There they test the application end to end, whether functionality is working or not, all the tabs are available or not, code is okay or not. They test end to end. And once everything is fine, they put a stamp on it, approved, certificate. Okay, this application is absolutely fine, go ahead. Then we place it on IIT, like rats, rabbits, and all. You test it once your medicine is approved, maybe, right? So IIT means integrated acceptance testing. Along with your application code, you need to test its integrations as well. I mean to say, suppose you are using BookMyShow application. Testing BookMyShow application is not enough. How it is working with SBI application, how it is working with so-and-so credit card application. Is it okay with UPI? Nowadays, we are using UPIs everywhere. So all these integrations also we check. That we will do here, integrated acceptance test. Finally, if everything is satisfied, all the results are as expected, right? Then we release the application to the end user. That is called as production. So being end user team, being end user, if you access the application, you access production environment. You never know how many environments are there within that organization who is maintaining your application. You never know that. They maintain multiple environments to leave your application to your production, to give it to end users. This is called live environment team or production environment, where exactly your request will go. There are many environments before. So with Agile, what I am telling you is, to reach this feature to this state, you are waiting for 1 month or weeks time. So you are preparing all the delicious items and you are not serving to the end user. You are storing them in fridge for 1 month, and after 1 month you are serving. You never know whether they stay for 1 month, what is their shell life and all. After serving to the end user only, you will come to know whether they are tasty or whether they are rotten. So this is the problem with Agile team. There are n number of reasons for it. There are n number of reasons for it. I'll tell you. The first reason is infrastructure readiness. The first reason is infrastructure readiness. I'll tell you a simple example. Try to understand. There is a developer. Take developer name as Omkar. And there is an infrastructure engineer called Ravi. Developer writes the code and Omkar writes the code, and Ravi prepares the servers for Omkar to run his application, like installing Java, installing Tomcat, configuring database. Ravi takes care, and Omkar writes all the code. Okay, Omkar got a user story to develop a new feature. He is using Java version 9 to develop that new feature. Okay, he took his 2 weeks of time. Everything is done. Absolutely. It came out very well. He tested on his laptop. It is fine. Now he asked Ravi, hey Ravi, I want Java 9 in production environment quickly. I want to run my application feature in production. I'm sending my application to production, but it works only if it is Java 9. But you have Java version 8 in production environment. Ravi can't go and upgrade version 8 to version 9 immediately as you asked him. Omkar asked Ravi, but Ravi cannot do it quickly because there are n number of things at enterprise level to follow. First, you need to test in this environment, then this one, finally here. That too, if you have 100 servers, test on one server, do the tests, how application is behaving with the new software. If everything is fine, then only take the approvals and go further. And what about licenses? What about financial approvals? All these things infrastructure guys should consider. But Omkar told Ravi that he needs tomorrow. All these things will not happen over the night. So what happens? Omkar should wait for 2 more weeks, because for Ravi it may take 2 weeks to complete all this activity. Why? Why this happened? Because Omkar told Ravi over the night. What if Omkar told the same information? Hey Ravi, I am working on a new feature by using Java 9. I'll be able to complete it in next 2 weeks. Please be advised that you may need to install Java version 9 on production servers in 2 weeks. If he would have told this information to Ravi, Ravi must have created something ready. He must have taken all approvals. He must have done his pilot tests. He must have installed everything. Here, the clear problem is infrastructure readiness. You see, infrastructure is not ready. And there is another problem in gray area, which is nothing but lack of proper communication between dev and ops, developers and operations guys, infrastructure guys. This is the first point, team. Infrastructure readiness. Though your infrastructure is not ready, as your infrastructure is not ready, we couldn't send the features to the end users. And scalability is one more another challenge, team. I'll tell you what is scalability. Team, if you see festival days, right? If you see on festival days, any festival days, if you go to shopping malls and if you go to sweet shops and all, they open more counters. Why? They open more counters. Why? On festival days and Thanksgiving days and all, Christmas sales, they open more counters than regular counters. Why? Why do they open more counters? Simple. Simple. To serve more customers quickly. Many customers may come. So if they have only one or two counters, the line may be bigger. It takes a lot of time for customer to complete his activity, right? So the same way, team, imagine your developers are releasing new features to the market. To host those new features, you need additional capacity for sure, because suppose Amazon announced some great Indian sale, or Flipkart announces big billion sale, blah, blah, blah sales, right? When they announce these sales, more customers access those applications on those days. Because of more requests, your applications may go down. Their performance may be degraded. That's why, team, what they do, they add more servers to the capacity, add 10 more servers, add 15 more servers. That is scalability, team. Adding more capacity is scalability. But you know what? In order to add a new server at enterprise level, it takes days literally. Earlier days, we used to give a notice 3 months before. Boss, we need 10 servers in 3 months. Nowadays, thanks to other technologies, we are giving quickly, easily. But earlier days, we used to take a lot of time to get new servers. You need to raise a request. Your manager has to approve. He asks you business reason. Then it goes to servers team. Their manager should accept. Their financials should be available. Financial approval should be given. Then they give you server. You install OS. You install application. You test the application again on the new server. Then add those servers to the existing servers. Check the connectivity and all, how they are behaving together. All these things takes days, team, literally. So scalability is a big challenge. It's not again an overnight job, right? This is another challenge. And quality of the product. See, Agile has tightly deadlines, team. 2 weeks you need to prepare an application. You have a tight deadline. Here and there you may compromise with 1 or 2 tests. You may leave 1 or 2 tests being in rush. Quality of the product definitely gets affected. There are many times you must have heard like application is working in development but failed in production. Many reasons for that, right? And then because of all these things, yes, you face limited release windows. You will have hardly one time in a month to release the application features to the end user, though they are ready. Because of all these things, you need to wait for at least few weeks to release the new features to the end users. These are all the challenges with Agile team. And this is one of the biggest challenges. Application was working fine in development environment. We don't know what happened in production environment. The code is working fine in my laptop. I don't know why it is not working there. This is one of the common issues you face in IT industry. We need to address all these things, team. We need to address all these things. This is where the third evolution is started. The third evolution of IT started. So I'm keeping DevOps aside. After Agile, we are moving to DevOps nowadays. I'll keep it aside. And from entire architecture, we move to microservices. What is a microservice? Let me tell you a simple example, team. You are accessing some banking application. So when you are accessing banking application, your banking application has your login module, credit cards, funds transfer, mini statement, loans, blah, blah, blah. When you have these many options, suppose credit card module is down because of some reason, that code is not working. So what we used to do, we use it to bring down the entire application. We use it to fix the issue. We use it to rehost. Means again, the complete application will be down and you fix the issue, you re-upload or you redeploy. But suppose Ravi wants to perform urgent money transaction. He doesn't have anything to do with credit card. There is no dependency. He just wants to log in. He would like to access funds transfer page. Can Ravi able to access team? Can Ravi transfer the funds to his friends? Is it possible? Is it possible? No, because you brought down the total application here. That is where microservices are started, team. That is where microservices are started. With microservices, they made every code piece as a separate service, no dependency, nothing. So I run login module in separate Node.js technology. I run funds transfer in Tomcat server. I run mini statement as a Python code. I can run credit card module in some JBoss server. Each service is different. Even though the credit card module is down, no harm to the login, no harm to funds transfer. They can continue. Meantime, you can go and fix that piece only. It's like making your bigger application to pieces. This is started team already 4 years ago. I started working on this. 4 years ago, I started working on this microservices, right? The traditional applications of the organizations, if you take any organization, maybe you're all working, maybe if you see, they are making their traditional applications to microservices, smaller pieces. That is where it is started already, microservices. If DB is down, you can't do anything, Omkar. This is, I'm talking about application, means the main code. For DB, you will have definitely a cluster where you will have multiple backups, hourly backups, everything we save for DBs as well. No harm for DB. And then team, in place of virtualization, we started using containers. In place of virtualization, we started using containers. Containers are lightweight application runtimes. In order to understand container, you need to spend minimum 40 minutes. So for now, I'm not discussing that. Let's understand, okay, along with VMs, we started using containers. Containers are lightweight application runtime engines where you deploy your application with dependencies. For now, just try to understand, okay, we can use containers. I'm not going to discuss much about it. It leads to a lot of confusion. So for now, I'm not touching with. And next team, we started using hosted data centers in the second phase, right? From now, we started using cloud. Everybody of you know cloud, I think. Team, is there anyone that don't know cloud? Who don't know cloud? Is there anybody that who don't know cloud in the class? You must have heard at least once cloud. So access anywhere, pay as you use, on demand usage. I want 20 GB immediately. Go and get it. I want to store 10 GB data. Please come and save. Whatever you want. In seconds, you can get it. That is where cloud infrastructure has come into the picture, team. Nowadays, organizations are moving to cloud because they don't need to, entertain people for hosting the servers and all. Many jobs are cut down because of cloud, to be frank. But still, efficiency, data storage, data persistency, on-demand usage, everything is available in cloud, which is not there with hosted data centers or data centers. Earlier days, if you want a new VM, n number of times you need to follow up. But now, within a minute, you can get a new VM or new server with cloud infrastructure. This is where team third evolution is started. Now, in place of agile, why DevOps has come into the picture? First of all, what is this DevOps? What is the definition of DevOps? You may think team DevOps is a culture or job title, or is it a new team or way of organizing the things or a simple set of technologies? What is really DevOps? how I can understand DevOps, right? Team, the best definition I heard so far in my experience is this thing. DevOps is a reorg. It is not at all a new team to hire. DevOps is a reorganization. It is not at all a new team to hire. In today's scenario team, developers sit at some place, infrastructure engineers sit at some other place. Infrastructure guys don't know what developers are doing. Developers don't know how infrastructure is being hosted. This is just like ball game. They put all the code inside the ball, they just throw it. Infrastructure guys just catch the ball and they host it. Developers don't know what operating system these guys are using, or what is the patch version today, and what is the deployment strategy, how they are restarting a service. They need not to know. In fact, they don't know also. Whereas infrastructure guys never see what is inside the application, how many loops he has written, what framework he has used. They don't see all these things because that is not their job. This is how they are going in organizations team. But with DevOps, yes, as the name itself says, development team and operations team, they started working together. Team, many people think DevOps means development and operations. I need to work on development and I need to work on operations. No, that's a false statement, team. That's a false statement. DevOps means the collaboration of development team and operations team. Their work they do, these guys work, these do, but they do together. They do together. If you make all these guys sit at a single place, developers and operation engineers, Ravi will come to know what Omkar is preparing. What Omkar asks Ravi after 2 weeks. Omkar will also know how much hard it is to get a new server from Ravi. He can understand how Ravi is struggling to get all approvals. So he would inform beforehand only. This is all about collaboration, team. This is all about collaboration. Developers and operations teams, right? They start working together towards a common goal, of application stability and frequent releases. See, in Agile, we discussed n number of features we are preparing, but we are not sending it to end user. But with DevOps approach, the goal is like, whenever there is a feature prepared from development standpoint, that feature should be